It's late. You're alone. You hear a knock at the door, but when you check the peephole, there's no one there. Would you answer it anyway? Most people do, and some of them are never seen again. These are 3 true stories of mysterious knocks and what happened to those who answered them. This is Mr. H. You're listening to Masked Horror. The 2 a.m. knock. I live alone. It's not a big deal most of the time. Quiet neighborhood, decent apartment complex, deadbolts, security cameras, the usual stuff that makes you feel safe, until it doesn't. It was a Thursday night when it happened. I had work the next morning, so I was in bed by midnight, half listening to some true crime podcast while scrolling through my phone. You know how you just start drifting off, that weird half-asleep place. That's when I heard it. 3 knocks. Soft, deliberate, at my front door. I froze. It wasn't a knock like someone delivering a package. It wasn't loud or urgent. It was careful, almost polite. I checked the clock. 12:28 a.m. Every instinct told me not to move, just stay still, but my brain was already racing. Maybe it's a neighbor. Maybe something happened. I slid out of bed quietly and grabbed my phone. No notifications, no texts, no missed calls. Another knock. Same 3 taps. I crept toward the door as quietly as I could, heart hammering. I live on the 2nd floor, and my peephole is a little warped. Older building problems, but you can still make out shapes through it. When I looked, there was nothing, just the empty hallway. I waited, holding my breath, half expecting someone to jump out or bang on the door harder. Nothing. After about a minute, I started to think maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was dreaming. I turned back toward my bedroom, and that's when I heard it again. 3 more knocks. This time, softer. I whipped around and looked through the peephole again. Still nothing. Empty hallway. Dead quiet. I flipped on the outdoor porch light. It didn't help much. It just cast long, weird shadows down the hall. I thought about opening the door, just a crack, just to check. But something deep in my gut screamed no. Every hair on my arms stood up. I backed away slowly, keeping my eyes on the door. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the live feed from my door camera. It's one of those cheap, motion-activated ones from Amazon. Not the best quality, but enough to see who's at your door. Except, when I pulled it up, the screen was black. Not disconnected, not frozen, just black, like the lens was covered. I tried refreshing it, rebooting the app. Nothing. And then, a notification popped up. Motion detected. Front door. I almost dropped my phone. I stared at the blank screen, waiting for something, anything, to show up. Nothing. Another knock. I jumped. It sounded like it came from the side of the door, not the front, like someone was tapping on the frame. I called 911 trying to keep my voice steady. They said they'd send a unit over to check it out. 15 minutes went by. I stayed frozen in the middle of my living room, phone clutched in both hands, staring at the door. I didn't hear any more knocks, just silence. Heavy, depressing silence. The cops arrived around 12:45 a.m. Two of them, one male, one female. They checked the hallway, the stairwells, even knocked on a few neighbors' apartments. No one else heard anything. No sign of anyone lingering around. They asked to see my door camera footage. I pulled up the app, and suddenly, the feed was working again. The last recording, timestamped 12:27 a.m. It was just 10 seconds of static, like the camera had been jammed or scrambled. The officers were polite, but clearly didn't think much of it. Probably just a drunk neighbor or a prank, they said. Yeah, maybe. They offered to do a sweep of my apartment just in case. I let them. Nothing was out of place. Windows locked, doors secure. They left, and I triple-checked the locks before finally crawling back into bed. I didn't sleep. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak, every distant sound. Sometime around 4 a.m., just as I was starting to drift off again, there was another knock. Not at the door this time. On my window, my second-floor window. 3 soft taps. I sat up straight, heart slamming in my chest. I wanted to believe it was the wind, a branch, or my mind. Anything but what I knew deep down it was. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The knocking didn't come again. When the sun finally came up, I checked outside. No branches, no trees tall enough to reach that window. Nothing. Later that day, I reviewed my doorbell footage again, just static during the time of the knocks. But one thing I didn't notice before, around 2:06 a.m., for a split second, there's a single frame. A figure, standing just out of frame. No visible face, just a blurry silhouette, tall and thin, with one hand reaching toward the camera. And it wasn't standing where a visitor would normally stand. It was crouched, low, like it had been crawling. It hasn't happened since, but I will never forget that night. But sometimes, even now, when I'm lying in bed around 2 a.m., I swear I hear it. 3 soft knocks, just waiting for me to answer. Knock, knock, from inside. I used to think those horror stories about people hiding in walls were just internet myths, urban legends, something to scare yourself with late at night. I don't think that anymore. It happened when I moved into my first apartment, a small 2-bedroom unit I rented with my best friend Tyler. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was cheap and close to campus. We thought we scored a deal. The first weird thing was the knocking. At first, we joked about it. It would come late at night, soft tapping sounds, like someone knocking from the inside of a closet or the walls. We blamed it on old pipes, the building settling, normal stuff. Until it wasn't. One night around 1 a.m., I was lying in bed scrolling on my phone when I heard it. 3 soft knocks, coming from my closet door. I sat up so fast, I made myself dizzy. I stared at the door, heart pounding, every muscle frozen. Then, nothing. No more knocking, no creaks, just that awful heavy silence. I tried to laugh it off, told myself it was a dream, but the next morning, Tyler looked rough. He asked if I heard anything weird last night. I lied and said no. I didn't want to feed into it. I didn't want us both freaking out over nothing. A few nights later, Tyler wasn't home. He had a night shift at work, and I was alone. I stayed up late, too nervous to sleep. The apartment felt off, like it was too quiet, like the air itself was watching me. I was microwaving some leftovers when I heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. This time, from the kitchen pantry door. A door I was standing 5 feet away from. I dropped my plate. It shattered on the floor. I stared at the pantry like it was going to swing open on its own. I grabbed the biggest knife I could find and yanked the door open. Nothing. Just shelves full of canned food and cereal boxes. But when I looked closer, I noticed something weird. The back panel of the pantry wall looked loose, like it didn't fit quite right. I didn't touch it. I didn't want to know. Instead, I did the dumbest thing I could have done. I locked my bedroom door and slept with the lights on, telling myself I was imagining everything. 2 days later, Tyler and I decided to finally check it out. We pulled the pantry shelves out. Behind them, a panel covering a small maintenance crawl space. When we pried it loose, the stench hit us first. Sweat, mold, something worse underneath it. Inside was a narrow tunnel between the walls, and in that tunnel, old food wrappers, dirty blankets, empty water bottles, a cracked phone with a dead battery. Someone had been living there, maybe still was. Tyler wanted to call the police immediately, but I stopped him. We were two broke college kids. The last thing we needed was breaking a lease or getting blamed for property damage. Looking back, that was dumb. But at the time, I thought it was the right thing to do. We sealed the crawl space back up, boarded it up, duct taped it, pushed the shelves back, and we didn't talk about it again. For a while, things were quiet. No knocks, no weird feelings, nothing. Until one night about 2 weeks later, I woke up to the sound of my bedroom door creaking open. I know I locked it. I always locked it. I kept my eyes closed, pretended to be asleep. I could hear soft breathing, slow footsteps. Something heavy pressed down on the edge of my bed, just near my feet. I stayed frozen, heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would give me away. I must have laid there for an hour, maybe more, listening to whoever or whatever sat there in the dark. Eventually, it left. I heard the door click shut. When I was finally brave enough to open my eyes, the room was empty. Nothing seemed touched, no windows open, no signs of forced entry. The next morning, Tyler was gone. All his stuff was still there, his car still in the lot, but him? Vanished. Police found no signs of struggle, no forced entry. That was the last time I ever heard from him. I still don't know what really happened. They treated it like a missing persons case, took my statement, dusted for prints. Nothing. I moved out a week later, but sometimes when I'm lying in bed, trying not to think about it, I swear I hear it again. 3 soft knocks, coming from somewhere inside the walls. The wrong house. When we first found the house, it felt too good to be true. 3 bedrooms, big backyard, quiet street, and the rent, way cheaper than anything we could find back in the city. My wife and I thought it was fate, a place where our daughter could finally have her own yard to play in, a place to breathe. We signed the lease the same day we toured it. I still wonder if that was the biggest mistake I ever made. The house was old, sure. Paint peeling around the windows, a sagging porch, a cracked driveway lined with weeds. But it had character. It felt lived in, but something we could put our own stamp on. That should have been the first red flag. The first night, everything was normal. We unpacked, ate some horribly bad pizza on the floor, nothing like we would have gotten in the city, and we joked with each other about how we were finally being real adults. Our daughter ran around the empty rooms laughing. By the second night, things started to feel off. It started with the porch light. It wouldn't turn on. I changed the bulb, checked the switch. Nothing. The porch stayed dark, even though every other light in the house worked fine. That night again, around 2:15 a.m., I woke up to a soft knock. 3 slow knocks, deliberate, from the side door, the one that led into the backyard. At first I thought maybe it was an animal, or a neighbor, or maybe I was dreaming. I got up, grabbed a flashlight, baseball bat, and crept to the door. Nothing outside, just thick, still darkness of the field behind the house, stretching out into forever. I told myself it was nothing, but the next night, it happened again. And the night after that, always the same, always 3 knocks, always around 2 a.m. But every time I checked, no one was there. No footprints, no movement on the cheap motion sensor I installed, just silence and the feeling of being watched. By the end of the first week, my wife was scared to be alone after dark. Even our daughter, normally fearless, said she didn't like her room. She said it felt too cold, even when the heat was running. I tried to brush it off. Small new towns are sometimes weird, right? Old houses creak. The wind plays tricks sometimes. I was trying to really give the whole situation the benefit of the doubt. I didn't want to admit that every night I started to dread 2 a.m. One afternoon, while gassing up the car, I mentioned to the cashier that we moved into the old white house on Milner Road. Her face changed instantly. The smile dropped. Her hand slowed at the register. "You bought the Jensen place," she said quietly. I nodded. She didn't say another word after that, just handed me my change and looked away. It stuck with me. Later on that same evening, I went to introduce myself to the neighbor. I asked our neighbor, an older man named Mr. Rollins, if he knew anything about the house. He hesitated for a long time before finally speaking. "You folks, you ever hear knocking late at night?" he asked. My mouth went dry. I didn't answer. He nodded slowly like he already knew. The last family that lived there, the Jensens, they heard it too, he said, before they disappeared. I stared at him, thinking he was joking, waiting for him to crack a smile. He didn't. "They vanished overnight," he said. "Car in the driveway, dinner still on the table, doors locked from the inside. No sign of struggle." I asked if there had ever been a police investigation. He shrugged. "Sure, but nothing came of it. Around here, folks don't like to ask too many questions." He glanced at the tree line behind the house and lowered his voice. "There are things that happen out there. Old things. Things better left alone." I didn't sleep much that night, especially after the knocking started again. This time, it wasn't just one door. It was the front door, then the side door, then faintly, the back door that led into the basement, a door we never used. 3 slow knocks each time, as if whatever it was checking every way in. My wife woke up crying. Our daughter crawled into bed with us, shivering. We decided to leave the next morning. No notice, no packing, just left. But when I went outside to load the car, there was something waiting for me on the front porch. A small pile of stones, stacked neatly, perfectly balanced. No note, no sign of who left it. just waiting. I didn't touch it. I was smart enough to know not to do that. Hell, I didn't even step over it. I packed the car as fast as I could and got us out of there. We checked into the first hotel we could find 20 miles away. I didn't tell my wife about what Mr. Rollins said. I didn't tell her about the pile of stones as I covered it. I didn't tell her about the cashier. I just said we needed to move. We broke the lease, lost our deposit, left town without saying goodbye. We've already started looking for another place. This time, we're asking more questions about any house we're interested in. About the house, about who lived there before, and what they left behind, or who or what they left behind.